Good morning, students. So, welcome back from your summer break. I hope so. You all are doing fine. I hope so. You have enjoyed these holidays, and I hope so that you have studied as well. So, finally, we are back with our lecture session again, and today we are going to cover the same chapter which we were doing before this summer break, which is chapter number 4, Agriculture, from the subject Geography. And this is going to be your summary lecture number 1, because the chapter is quite huge, so I have divided the summary lecture into 2 parts so that you can have a quick recap about the topics in parts. Basically, we'll cover few of the topics in the first summary lecture and few of the topics in the other summary lecture. So this is summary lecture number 1, chapter 4, Agriculture, class 10, subject Geography. So let's get started with the lecture. So basically, in this particular chapter, Agriculture, as you all know, 2/3 of India's population is engaged in agriculture activities, and agriculture is the foremost kind of a primary activity and the most important activity in India, which produces most of the food raw material for various industries. And in this particular chapter, Agriculture, you will study the various types of farming, cropping patterns, and major crops grown in India. And in the end, you will know how many agriculture contribution is given to the national economy, to the employment sector, and to the final output that is given to our country. So all these topics that we are going to cover in this particular lecture. So we are starting off with our first chapter, which is types of farming. So over years, you all know that cultivation methods in India have changed significantly depending upon the characteristics of physical environment, technology, know-how, and social culture practices. So basically, you have all know that agriculture from past few years have been changed rapidly because of the changing physical environment that is there. Then the technology have been also developed, new methods have been came up, and all the socio-cultural practices that we are doing. So the types of farming have been also rapidly changing. So farming varies from subsistence to commercial farming nowadays. Because first of all, in our previous age, in your grandparents' age, the farming was only for the surviving of the nation. But now that it has been changed to some commercial farming. So at present, in different parts of India, the following farming system have been practicing. So what are these types of farming that have been practicing in India currently are primitive subsistence farming, second is intensive subsistence farming, and third is commercial farming. And did you know that agriculture is the largest livelihood producer in our rural India? So basically, the main activity that is there in our rural India is agriculture, and we have been practicing from ages. And we are one of the largest livelihood provider in our rural India. So first of all, we are going to discuss about primitive subsistence farming. So that is the one kind of this type of farming is basically is still practiced in few places in India. It is not majorly done now, but it is kind of a farming that is still practiced in few places in India. It is practiced on small patches with the help of primitive tools like hoe, dhow, and digging sticks, and family and community labor. So basically, all the farmers, those who have their own farming lands, they practice this particular farming in their own lands with the help of primitive tools like hoe, dhow, digging sticks, and with the help of their own family members and the community laborers if they have in around their own particular house. So this type of farming depends upon monsoon, natural fertility of the soil, and suitability of other environmental conditions. Wait a minute. sorry for that. So basically this type of farming depends upon monsoon, natural fertility of the soil and suitability of other environmental conditions. So basically this kind of farming depends on monsoon all the time. So all the natural fertility, they are not dependent on the other products that basically other types of farming depends on. Basically all this commercial farming, they depend on other types of they need labor intensive farming, then they need higher doses of methods of YBCs and fertilizers and pesticides, but they don't need these kind of things. So it is also called slash and burn cultivation, and the farmers clear a patch of land and produce crops to sustain their family. So basically what farmers do, they clear a patch of their own land and produce crops to sustain their family, to produce the food for their own family members. And when soil fertility decreases, the farmers sit and start cultivating in the same way on a fresh patch of land. So if the fertility level of one particular land is decreasing, the farmers shift that particular space and start cultivating the same way on the fresh patch of land, and this allows nature to replenish the fertility of the soil, and productivity in this type of farming is low as fertilizers or modern inputs are not used. So the productivity in this type of farming is quite low because they are not using much of fertilizers and modern inputs. So basically this type of farming is only essential for their own uses. So if they want to produce for their own family and community, that's why they are doing this type of farming. So it is not economically fertile and commercially it is not viable at all. So that's why this type of farming is not used for the entire part of the country. It is not covering that, it is covering for their own well-beings. Now there are different names of slash and burn cultivation in India. So these are few of the names. You can read it. Like in northeastern states, they call this particular type of farming like Jumming. Manipur, they say Pamlo, Chhattisgarh, Deepa, and Andaman and Nicobar Deepa. Same way in every other state, they call this type of farming in their own language, and they have given their own names. And in other part of the world also, they have given their own names to this type of slash and burn cultivation. So you can read it, all the names from here that have been mentioned. Now we are coming to the second type of farming, which is intensive subsistence farming. So this type of farming is practiced in areas of high population pressure on land. So it is labor intensive farming where high doses of biochemical inputs and irrigation are used for obtaining higher production. So basically this type of farming is practiced in areas of high population, first thing, and basically it is giving a pressure on land because it is quite not same like the primary one. It is quite intensive, and it is labor intensive farming because where there is high doses of biochemical inputs are used and irrigation are used for higher production. So they are not producing only for their family and livelihood. They are basically producing for the high population and of a particular land area that they are living on. So that's why they are not using the smaller primary tools. They are using labor intensive farming here, and where high doses of biochemical inputs are used and irrigation is used for obtaining the higher production. Through the right of inheritance leading to the division of land among successive generations has rendered land holding size uneconomical. The farmers continue to take maximum output from the limited land in the absence of alternative source of livelihood. Thus, there is enormous pressure on agricultural land. So basically, this type of farming, they basically what they do, they divide the particular land area into their own segregated way, and they use a lot of labors to cultivate that particular land area to not for the economic person they are doing, but they are creating it to for the entire land, for the entire population who are living in that particular state or that particular city. So they are producing all these food or irrigation for the entire population who are living in that particular land. So that's why they are using maximum, they want the maximum output from that particular land area. So they are using all these irrigation methods and biochemicals inputs so that they can get as much benefit and from that particular land area. And did you know that 12% of world farmland is in India only? Now we are coming to the main farming, which is the commercial farming, and because of that we are getting the food which we are getting currently. So in this type of farming there is higher doses of modern inputs like HYB seeds are used, chemical fertilizers are used, insecticides and pesticides are used in order to obtain higher productivity, and the degree of commercialization varies from region to region. So basically this type of farming uses all the modern techniques. They are using higher doses of modern inputs like HYB seeds, chemical fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, and all these things for the higher production of all the crops that they are producing, and it is varying from the degree of commercialization from their region to region. So like for example, rice is a commercial crop on Punjab and Haryana, but in Orissa it is the subsistence crop. So basically Orissa can't produce much of rice, so it is a kind of a subsistence crop, so they are not producing much of it in that particular region. Where it is rich at, like in Punjab and Haryana, they are going to produce as much as they can of rice only, because that's a commercial crop of that particular region and that particular land. So it all depends on the soil fertility of their particular regions. So if they are rich in particularly few of the crops, they are going to produce majorly those, and minorly they are going to produce other crops. But the thing is, the major one is counted in those particular regions only. So like in Punjab and Haryana we count rice as their major commercial crop, and in Orissa that will be counted as a subsistence crop. Now there is one more kind of farming, that is kind of a commercial farming only, that is plantation. That is counted in commercial farming. It is a type of farming in which a single crop is grown on a large particular area, and the plantation has an interface of agriculture and industry. So the plantation use capital intensive inputs with the help of migrant laborers, and all the produce is used as raw material in respective industries. So they are particularly producing all these crops for majorly for the respective industries they are making it. So basically plantation is a type of commercial farming first of all, and in which a single crop is grown on a large area. So basically only a single particular crop is grown in a large area. Plantation covers large tracts of land using capital intensive inputs with the help of migrant laborers, and all they produce is used as a raw material in industries. For example, you can count tea, coffee, rubber, sugarcane and banana. So all these are particularly crops that are grown in their particular region only. Like tea plantations are there in Assam and North Bengal, coffee plantations in Karnataka, banana plantation in southern part of India, rubber plantation in Kerala, bamboo plantation in northeast India, etc. are some important plantation crop grown in India. So since the production is mainly for market, a well-developed network of transportation and communication connecting the plantation areas is also there, and processing of these industries and market is also present with all of them. Now we are coming to the second topic of this particular chapter, which is Cropping pattern. So basically India has majorly three cropping seasons, which are Rabi, Kharif and Zaid. So basically the crops are grown in particularly few of the seasons, and majorly there are three in India, which is Rabi, Kharif and Zaid. So we'll talk about the first season here, which is Rabi crops. So in Rabi particular season, sown in winter from October to this summer and harvested in summer from April to June. So basically they pour all the seeds in particularly winters from October to December, and they harvest these particular crops in summer from April to June. Important crops are here are wheat, barley, peas, gram and mustard. And states such as Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand and Western Uttar Pradesh are main Rabi crop producing states here. Availability of precipitation during winter months due to the western temperature cyclones help in the success of these crops, and the success of green revolution in Punjab, Haryana, Western Uttar Pradesh and parts of Rajasthan has also been an important factor in the growth of Rabi crops here. So basically green revolution is a particularly using all the high technology techniques, modern HIVCs and harvesting methods they are using, so that they can build as much Rabi crops as they can. Then the second season is Kharif crops. So they are sown with the onset of monsoon in different parts of the country and harvested in summer and October. So when pour the seeds basically in the monsoon season in different parts of the country, and they harvest these particular crops basically from September to October. And the important crops are paddy, maize, jowar, bajra, arar, moong, urad, all these dals that you eat, basically them, and then cotton, jute, groundnut and soya bean. And some of the most important rice growing regions are Assam, West Bengal, coastal regions of Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Maharashtra, particularly the Konkan coast along with Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Recently, paddy has also become an important crop in Punjab and Haryana, and in states like Assam, West Bengal and Odisha, three crops of paddy are grown in a year, like in Aman and Boro. Then the third particular season is the Zaid season, and the Zaid season is the short season between the Rabi and the Kharif season during the summer month, and the crops that are produced in these seasons are watermelon, then muskmelon, cucumber, vegetables and fodder crops. So these are particularly crops that have been produced in this particular season. It is quite a short period of span that it came between the Rabi and the Kharif season, and it came in basically come in the summer months only, and it produces watermelon, muskmelon, cucumber, vegetables and fodder crops. Then the major crops that are there in India. So there are a variety of food and non-food crops that are grown in different parts of India, depending upon the variations in soil, climate and cultivation practices. So the major crops in India are first of all rice, which is the staple food crop of a majority of the people who live in India, and India is the second largest producer in the world after China. Now Kharif crop, which requires high temperature and high humidity with annual rainfall above 100 centimeters. So basically it grows in Kharif crop and it requires high temperature. Basically it should be above 27 degrees Celsius and there should be high humidity with annual rainfall above 100 centimeters. So basically it is grown in the soil condition and where there is high humidity, there is high temperature, and its growth in the plains of north and northeastern India. Then coastal areas and the deltic regions also it is there. Then development of dense network of canal irrigation and tube wells have made it possible to grow rice in areas of less rainfall such as Punjab, Haryana and western Uttar Pradesh and parts of Rajasthan. So there is particularly development that have been made through the network of canal irrigation and tube wells in the parts where there is not much of rainfall, but they have made it possible with these methods, such as in Punjab, Haryana and western Uttar Pradesh of and parts of Rajasthan also. So this is a particular map where the blue one you can see that they are the major regions of the rice producing areas, and the white one are the minor ones. Now the second major crop is the wheat. It is one of the most important cereal crop because main food crop in north and northwestern part of the country use wheat only, and it requires cool growing season and bright sunshine at reaping time. So it requires around 50 to 75 centimeter of annual rainfall, evenly distributed over the growing season. So basically it doesn't require much of rainfall. It requires only 50 to 75% only, and it is a kind it is quite grow in the Rabi season only. And important wheat growing zones are Ganga, Sutlej plains and black soil regions in Deccan. Major wheat producing states are Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan and parts of Madhya Pradesh. Now you can see in this particular map that the pink one are the major areas that produces wheat in India. Basically Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, then few of the parts of Uttarakhand also, then Haryana, and the minor areas you can see in the light pink section. The light pink areas are the areas which produces less wheat. Now we come to the third one, which is the sugar cane, and it is a tropical as well as subtropical crop. It grows well in hot and humid climate with the temperature of 21 to 27 degrees Celsius. So it needs around 21 to 27 degrees Celsius to grow, and it requires an annual rainfall between 75 centimeter to 100 centimeter, and it can grow on variety of soils and needs manual labor from sorting to harvesting. So basically it's a kind of a crop which requires a lot of labor, because the sorting of this particular, seeding of this particular crop is needed a lot of labors, and harvesting also, because they are quite hard enough to harvest it, so they need a manual labor to do that. And India is the second largest producer after Brazil of this sugarcane, and main source of sugar, jaggery, khandli and molasses. They are the few of the name of the sugarcane which they produce. And the major sugar producing states are Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Punjab and Haryana. Now we come to the other important one, which is milk. So basically in our daily life we eat all the dals that are on the daily basis. After rice and wheat, majorly pulses are the after pulses, the kind of different types of roti that have been made in different parts of India are made of this jowar, bajra and ragi. So basically they use this particular milk to basically as a gross grain they use it, and they are the important milks grown in India. Through these are known as gross grains. They have high nutrition value. So basically if you are particularly on diet or you want a healthy life, you should eat these particular food grains. Then ragi is quite rich in iron, it is rich in calcium and other micronutrients and roughage, and it is a crop of dry regions and grow well in red, black, sandy, loamy and shallow soils. Karnataka is one of the largest producer, followed by Tamil Nadu, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Jharkhand and Arunachal Pradesh are also important ragi producing states. Then jowar is the third most important food crop with respect to area and production. It is a rain feed crop grown in moist areas. Moist means where there is a larger range of rainfall that occurs. Then Maharashtra is the largest producer of jowar, followed by Karnataka, then Andhra Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. Then bajra grows well in sandy soils and swallow black soil. So Rajasthan is one of the largest producer produced by Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat and Haryana. Then we have maize. So basically maize is used as both food and fodder, because kharif crop which requires temperature between 21 to 27 degrees Celsius and it grows well in the alluvial soil. So in states like Bihar it is grown as rabi crop also, and basically it is produced with the modern inputs like HPYCs, fertilizers and irrigation, because they are very highly in demand. So they basically use modern inputs to produce these particular crops so that they can produce faster with the help of HYVCs, fertilizers, irrigation, which have contribution to the increasing production of maize. Then there are major maize producing states are Karnataka, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Andhra Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. Then we have major pulses that we eat on a regular basis, which and India is one of the largest producer as well as the consumer also of pulses in India. So in other parts of the country, world, they don't eat much of these pulses. We are the most largest one who produces also, and the one who consumes the consumer of this pulses in the world. So they are major source of protein in the vegetarian diet. So these particular dal and pulses that are there, they are a rich source of protein in a vegetarian diet. Major pulses grown in India are arhar, urad, moong, masoor, pais and gram. So basically these are few of the pulses that are there. Then the pulses need less moisture and survive even in dry conditions. So these kind of pulses, they don't need much of moisture and they can survive even in dry conditions. All these crops except arhar help in restoring soil fertility by fixing nitrogen from the air, because of which it is grown in rotation with other crops. So apart from all these crops, there is one exceptional crop which is there, which is arhar, which is quite a restoring soil fertility level by fixing the nitrogen level from the air, and because of which it gets grown in rotation with the other crops. Now major pulses producing states in India are Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra and Karnataka. Now we are coming to the next topic. This is quite different from the other crops, which is the horticulture crops. So India is the largest producer of fruits and vegetables in the world. So when we talk about fruits and vegetables, we are the largest producer, and India is producer of tropical as well as temperate fruit. So from other parts of the world, they demand all these fruits that we produce in a large number, because we are one of the largest producers and they don't produce much of these kind of fruits and vegetables in their market. So fruit is in great demand, because like mangoes of Maharashtra are quite famous, Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal, oranges of Nagpur, then bananas of Kerala is famous, lychee and guava of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, pineapples of Meghalaya, grapes of Andhra Pradesh, apples, pears, apricots and walnuts of Jammu and Kashmir and Madhya Pradesh are quite famous. And India produces 13% of the world's vegetable as well. It is an important producer of pie, cauliflower, onion, cabbage, tomato, brinjal and tomato. And did you know that India counts to 10% of the world's fruit production as well? So vegetable is 13% and fruits is 10% in the entire world that we are producing. Then we have rubber. Rubber, it is an equatorial crop, but under special condition it is also grown in tropical and subtropical areas. So basically all the tires that you, are there in your cars and all the rubber producing things. So it is quite a special thing that is required, and it is quite a equatorial crop that is there under some special condition is been grown in certainly tropical and subtropical areas, and it requires moist and humid climate with rainfall of more than 200 centimeters and temperature above 25 degrees Celsius, and it is mainly an industrial raw material that has been used in majorly industries and in other automobile companies, and it is mainly grown in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Andaman and Nicobar Island also, and India ranks 5th among the world's natural rubber producers. Then the consumption of natural rubber are, so firstly the majorly is being covered by the auto tires and tubes. So, then comes cycle tires and tubes, then camel back, footwears, belts and horses, lattice form, dipped goods and others. So majorly it is being used by these auto tires and tubes. Then we have certainly fiber crops. So these fiber crops are basically cotton, jute, hemp and natural silk are the 4 major fiber crops that are grown in India. The first 3 are driven from the crops grown in the soil only, but silk is obtained from cocoons of the silkworms feed on different green leaves, especially mulberry. So basically you can see in this images also how the silk is being obtained from these particular silkworms that are there on these green leaves, especially on mulberry. So rearing of this silk worms from the production of silk fiber is known as sericulture. So when you they are doing this particularly silk, they are taking all the silkworms, it is a kind of a production they have given the name as sericulture. Then we have cotton. So cotton is India is believed to be the original home of cotton plant and one of the main raw material for cotton textile industries. India is the 3rd largest producer of cotton in the world. Cotton grows well in drier parts of black soil of Deccan Plateau, and it requires high temperature, light rainfall, 210 frost-free days and bright sunshine for growth. Kharif crop requires 8 to 10 months to mature, and basically Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, Tamil Nadu and so many other are the major cotton producing states in India. Now we'll come to the next topic, which is technology and institutional reforms. So basically agriculture has been practiced in India for thousands of years, and sustained uses of land without compatible techno-institutional changes have hindered the pace of agriculture development. So agriculture basically produces a livelihood for more than 60% of its population. So this particular sector needs some serious technical and institutional reforms. So they have started off with this Green Revolution and the White Revolution, where some of the reforms initiated by people to improve their agriculture section. So basically India is now highly populated and they required large amount of crops for their livelihood. So 60% of its population needs they particularly need a they are majorly dependent on India only. So basically they need all the transformation that is needed in agriculture. So they transformed from Green Revolution and White Revolution in the agriculture sector. For some these kind of reforms were initiated by the people to improve the agriculture sector. So why has India not improved in technical and institutional reforms in agriculture? Because in spite of development of sources of irrigation, most of the farmers in large parts of the country still depend upon the monsoon and natural fertility in order to carry on their agriculture. So most of the farmers in India, they still depend on the monsoon conditions, the physical environment and on the natural fertility in order to carry their agriculture. And agriculture needs now majorly serious technical and institutional reforms because the population has been increasing rapidly. For that, they need some major steps should be taken. So, collectivization, consolidation of holdings, cooperation, and abolition of zamindari sector were given priority to bring reforms in country after their independence. And land focus was the main focus on the first 5-year plan that had been made for agriculture. India of inheritance had led to fragmentation of land holding. Laws of land reforms were enacted, but laws of implementations were lacking. So there were certainly laws that should be enacted, that have been made for agriculture, but the implementation was still not there on agriculture. So what were these steps that have been taken by government in agriculture reforms were? So the government of India has embarked upon introducing agriculture reforms to improve Indian agriculture in the 1960s to 1970s. So the schemes introduced by government such as Kisan Credit Card, Personal Accident Insurance Scheme, Special Weather Bulletins and Agriculture Programs for farmers on the radio and television were introduced. Then the government also announces minimum support price, remunerative and procurement prices for important crops to check the exploitation of farmers by speculators and middlemen were being given. Then green revolution based on use of packaged technology and white revolution were some of the strategies that they have initiated to improve Indian agriculture, but this led to the concentration of development in few selected areas. So therefore in the 1980s and 1990s a comprehensive land development program was initiated, which included both institutional and technical reforms, which provided the provisions for crop insurance against calamities, establishment of Gramin banks were made, cooperative societies and bank for productivity, providing loan facilities were given to the farmers at lower rates of interest were the few of the steps that have been taken. Now the other steps that have been talked about was that this Kisan credit card have been given to them. Then there were special programs that have been introduced for the farmers for their knowledge on radio and television, and all the announcement of this minimum support price, remunerative and procurement prices for important crops to check the exploitation of farmers were being given. Now there was one main incident that took a change for the agriculture sector was this Bhutan Grandan. So Mahatma Gandhi declared Vinoba Bhave as his spiritual hire. He also participated in Satyagraha as one of the foremost Satyagrahis. He supported Gandhiji's concept of Gram Samrajya. After Gandhiji's martyrdom, Vinoba Bhave undertook Patyatra to spread this message throughout the country. Once when he was in Andhra Pradesh, some landless farmers demanded land for their economic well-being, and he assured them to talk to the Indian government for provision of land for them if they undertook cooperative farming. So there was Sri Ram Chandra Reddy stood up and offered 80 acres of land, and 80 landless farmers were also being seeded. So this was known as Bhutan to them, and later he introduced his idea throughout India. Some zamindars offered to dispute villages among the landless. This was also known as Gramdan. So however, many landowners choose to provide some parts of their land to the poor farmers due to the fear of Land Selling Act. So this Bhutan Gramin movement initiated by Vinoba Bhave is known as the bloodless revolution that has been took for the in the favor of agriculture at that time. So we are finishing off with the summary lecture 1. The topics that we have covered in this particular lecture. So the previous this is particularly the previous homework that I have given you in the before the summer holidays have been begun. So the answers I will be giving you in this particular lecture. So the Questions were: name one important beverage crop and specify the geographical conditions required for its growth. Second, name one staple crop of India and the regions where it is produced. Third, the land under cultivation has got reduced day by day. Can you imagine its consequences? So the answers here are the homework solution of this. One of the important beverage crop is tea. The tea is a plantation crop which mostly grown in the east and northeast regions of our country. Actually, the tea was produced to India by the British. This beverage crop's geographical conditions requires are: this crop will grow very well in tropical and subtropical climate. Second, this crop needs well drained and deep fertile soil with large amount of initial nutrition. Then this crop needs warm and moist and frost-free climate so that it can grow well. Second is the answer is rice. Rice is grown in the plains of north and northeastern India. Third, land under cultivation reduces each day. Consequences are: first, the amount of food produced reduces, that does not meet the demand and requirement. Second, there would be shortage of food. More and more people are deprived of food. They will suffer from hunger. Third, the price will rise day by day. Farmers will be unemployed because of farmers and laborers have not having any work. Fifth, there will be social unrest. People will die of hunger and disaster. There will be revolution on the government. So currently what the situation is, it is the same which we are facing in India currently. There is not much of employment that being left. People are being facing financial crisis. There are not much of income that is there, and now we are dealing with a major fight that is going to happen between India and China, which is still going on in Ladakh. So now that India taking certain steps, that you all know that now India have banned 59 digital apps that were being streaming from China. So they have banned all these apps so that there is not much of access and much of the financial thing that was going from here to there will not be there digitally. So we are safe from that. So basically all the consequences then we are facing currently as well, and it is impacting on the rural part of the India only, because the farmers are not getting the amount so that they can produce these crops, and all these things are happening. Now the homework that I want to assign you in this particular lecture, please read the chapter again. If you have not, please read the chapter again. Till now we have studied in this summary lecture 1, and please write very short type of question and answers till the topics that are covered today on your own. So we have covered 3 to 4 topics. So try to write short type of question and answers. Minimum is 10. Please, minimum should be 10, and the maximum as much as you can. Try to write it down and learn from it. So but it is going to be a kind of a revision that is going to happen with this particular thing. So try to write short type questions and answers in any of your notebook, rough or main, anyone you can, and please show it to me. So the topic that you are going to cover, you are going to do from that only. And if you have any queries from any of the topics previously, currently, and if you have any question that you want to ask apart from this also, you can ask me anytime. You can ask me on WhatsApp or you can call me. You know that I'm there. And in the student query section is still open. You can question me there also. And that's it. Just take care of your health. That's the most important thing. And study hard. That's it. Thank you so much.